I just sat down in this chair and got the static shock of my life. I'm afraid to touch anything in this building.
It is so stressful.
It's only happening to you and me. It doesn't happen to Steve or Natalie. I sparked. It was like the kind of spark the Survivor contestants dream up to start an actual fire.
Sure.
Okay.
Also, remember when I was sitting here and my headphones just sparked? Like I didn't touch anything. I was just sitting here.
What is happening? Girl, special announce. Tell the people what's happening.
My thing?
Yeah, your thing.
Okay, I'm hosting a gala for...
That's so wild.
Yeah, it's great. So it's
my baby girl is all grown up. She's hosting her own gala.
Well, it's like cocktail attire, but it's for Ollie's Angels Animal Rescue, which is the rescue organization where we got our Fiona. And I always talk about how I want to like help all the animals and save them and save their lives. So I'm doing it. I'm not getting paid for this. This is just a fun thing.
Yeah.
So it's Ollie's Angels Animal Rescue.org if you can come. It's March 24th. It's this Thursday. It's at the Piermont in Babylon, Long Island.
So how are you getting there?
I'm going to stay at my parents' place for a little bit, and my dad will drive me.
But you're going to be there live and in person. People can come and meet you and hang out with you.
Yeah, and like dance and drink and have dinner. There's going to be like raffles and silent auctions, and every single penny goes to helping the animals because it's really expensive to run a rescue. So come hang with me. We'll hang out Thursday, March 24th at the Piermont in Babylon, Long Island. Come hang.
Oh my God, that's the only important thing today. That's all we're talking about.
Oh no.
Go. No, I want you all to go. And there's a way you said they could support online if they can't be there.
Yeah, at Ollie's Angels Animal Rescue.org. You can get tickets there, or you can just donate if you'd like.
Oh my God,
Fiona,
I'm so proud of you.
Fiona and I thank you. Oh, thanks. It's like the least I can do.
It's so
Show
exciting.
up and like dance and talk about animals. Okay. I don't never need to be paid to do anything like that. Are you kidding?
Oh, fam, if ever we picked the right week to replay an episode. So we're doing that thing we do like I think now just once a year.
Once a year.
We were running a repeat, but fam, this is the Murdaugh murders case from Dateline. We're going to give you the update in the end. So listen through it and stick around because it's new information.
Sure.
Can I plug? So fam, on my website, patrickfails.com, you can see all my book tour dates, but I want to talk about two.
Please do.
So on Saturday, May 20th, I'm doing a benefit reading. It's the same prices. It's not any more expensive. It's $30 for regular admission, $50 for VIP, but it's all the money is going to the theater that I grew up doing theater at, like the community theater in my town.
I love this.
So it's a benefit for the Cape Cod Theater Company / Harwich Junior Theater. All the money is going there. I'm giving every single penny. So if you're in the Massachusetts area or people are coming like from Dallas or whatever.
Really?
I'm going to be super emotional. I'm going to just be hanging out. We'll go to a bar after. Everyone's welcome.
It's your hometown show.
Yeah, it's my hometown show. I'm so excited. So Saturday, May 20th at 7 p.m. Please come if you can.
Yes.
We're 2/3 sold out, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
So get in there. I'm also coming to London, fam. I'm doing a show at a place called 21 Soho on Friday, August 4th at 8 p.m. I'm afraid no one's going to come. I don't know what's going to happen.
People are coming.
Please,
Don't worry.
please, London, come. That one does not include a copy of the book because we're not allowed to do that internationally.
International issues.
Or whatever. But come, you can pre-order the book there if you want to, or you can just like meet me and hang out for the show. That's it. I'm done talking about it.
Okay, great.
Oh, so it's patrickfails.com. Get all the information on my traveling book party there. Thank you for indulging me.
I love this. I demand that you do it every episode now.
Thank you so much. So wait, so what are we talking about today?
It's the Dateline episode on the Murdaugh case. Murdaugh,
I think is
Alec
how you
Murdaugh.
say.
What a piece of shit this guy is, right?
I know.
Real hot take. We are not fans of this guy.
The killing of Alec Murdaugh's wife and son.
Alec Murdaugh
Double murder mystery, the desperate search to find suspects.
Ongoing saga surrounding a prominent and powerful family in South Carolina.
You're talking 5 bodies in a 6-year period of time.
Something's fishy about this thing. Something's going on.
I didn't understand why they weren't being questioned or investigated.
I hope that we were instrumental in causing people to take a deeper dive on this thing.
This is a living, ongoing nightmare for the people who live here.
It hurts down to the soul.
We just need peace.
Okay, girl, here's the thing. This all happened all at once. I knew nothing about this family, nothing about anything, and all of a sudden there's bodies all over North Carolina, and they're all related to this Murdaugh family.
All right, well, you've already fucked up because it's South Carolina. Let me tell you, I have some dear friends of mine from South Carolina, and they told me in no uncertain terms to get these pronunciations right. So
why? Fuck these people. I don't care about these people.
Because in the South, you do things a certain way.
Okay, you guys, if you could have seen the scolding, if I could eat my words.
Because I heard it from them months ago.
Okay. Okay.
When you do this on TCO, so it's Alec. It's Alec Murdaugh. It's written Alex Murdaugh, but it's Alec Murdaugh. Like E-L-I-C-K, Alec Murdaugh is how you're supposed to pronounce this guy's name.
Look, I love you and I will do my best, but this guy is trash and I don't care about saying his name right.
Because they want us, if we're going to drag him, they want to do it right. You know what I mean? That's their intentions. But you guys, if I say Alec, then I'm saying Alec. I'm sorry. Everyone else does.
Who cares?
These are strange days in the South Carolina Low Country.
It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it.
There have been unsolved murders and accidental deaths. Hard to solve and even harder to understand.
We're in a town called Hampton, South Carolina. Apparently, this is the Low Country. I don't even know what that means.
I don't either, but Craig Melvin is our host here. Craig Melvin, immediately, he's like, look, there's a lot happening here. There's unsolved murders. There's accidental deaths. And then he's like, it's you know, a very public unraveling. It's worthy of a Southern Gothic novel. And I'm like, Craig, we're in. Enough with the hard sell. Also, to be fair, there are people who've had their lives destroyed because of this, and we need to get to the bottom of it. But Craig, we're in.
I agree. One of the journalists that this coming up on, she's trying to explain how much drama there is. And this writer is like,
it's from Faulkner, it's from Shakespeare, it's from Grisham. And I think it really is some element of all three.
How many times in his home did John Grisham rewind that moment where he was like held in the same league as William Shakespeare?
Right. If he could frame it, he would have.
Grisham, you're okay, but you're no Shakespeare.
I mean, Shakespeare and also apples and oranges. Just let them be themselves. You know what I mean?
100%.
So we learned that this stupid fucking Murdaugh family, it's a century-old legal dynasty. These are a bunch of old cranky racists. Can we just say it?
I know.
Not everyone here. The Murdaughs specifically are a bunch of crotchety old racist white dudes who ran the Southern law. Oh, come on. How open-minded were they?
You guys, they ran this state's law system for 100 years.
And then they got to the Civil War.
I know.
Had their mitts all over it.
They show us the lineage of the original guy from 100 years ago, and then his son, and then his son. And they're all these old men pictures, and I just wrote, each one of these looks like they're about to have sex with a male sex worker in an airport bathroom more than the next.
Oh my God. They also look exactly the same. It's in Forrest Gump where it's Lieutenant Dan, or it's when his father, and it's just Gary Sinise playing the same role.
They all look like that senator that's definitely about to vote the bad way. You know what I mean?
Oh, God. And it's which one? But I know exactly who you mean. They all look like Lindsey Graham. So,
yeah, totally.
Michael DeWitt, he's the editor of the Hampton County Guardian.
Oh, God,
that was a terrible accent. I don't know what that was that came out of my mouth. I'm sorry.
Michael DeWitt is the editor of the Hampton County Guardian, part of the Gannett USA Today network.
If you walk down the street and talk to 5 people, at least 3 people are going to tell you that they know they're Murdaughs.
3 of them will know this family.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. My friends from South Carolina, too, were everyone knows the Murdaughs. Either you know of them or you oh, that guy knows, that guy knows. They're just permeating this entire society.
I'm sorry. All of their faces are so fucking punchable. All of these rich assholes that we were promised in 80s movies about people like this, none of these people look like that. None of them look like 1980s James Spader. You know what I mean?
I was just going to say, there's not a Steph from Pretty in Pink in sight. Who is? I watched that movie again recently.
Yeah.
God, is he trash? He
I know.
is so horrifying
God,
in that. He's like a horror movie villain in that. That's how mean he is.
I know. He was also 25. I love the 80s that gave us all the 25-year-olds playing 17-year-olds.
I know. Except Molly Ringwald, I think, actually was. Whatever, regardless.
We digress.
So then we get this frantic 911 call. It's everything was coming up roses for the Murdaughs. Or was it? Thank you, Dateline. So then it's this Alec Murdaugh guy. And it sounds like he's calling into a radio station next to the radio. Again, didn't we just do this?
We just did this.
It's turn your radio down. Hey, it's Murdaugh in the morning.
Murdaugh in the morning. I'm obsessed. Somebody make that. I'm making that podcast.
I was going to say, make that
week.
podcast, everybody. But so this 911 call, this is what I told you about when the story was first sort of happening a while ago. Yeah. This is the call. So we don't hear it in this Dateline, but track it down. I'm sure it's on YouTube. The dispatcher, this is how fucking rich this guy is.
Yeah.
The dispatcher is trying to ask, where are you and what? And he's like, okay. And the dispatcher goes, is it a house or a trailer? And Murdaugh goes, it's a house. Don't you know who I am? The idea that he wasn't living in some estate. It's a house.
Well, we do hear him say, look, it's 10:07 p.m. They're in the country house.
I need the police to answer immediately. My wife and child got badly. Please hurry.
Are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Are they in a vehicle?
No, ma'am. They're on the ground.
Do you see anyone in the area?
No, ma'am.
Okay, did you hear anything, or did you come home and find them?
No, man, I've been gone. I just came back.
My wife and son have been shot, ... badly.
I feel like there's only one way.
I
right?
know. And then the operator goes, are they breathing? Are they in a vehicle? I was like, that's a weird. Every shooting call she gets is about somebody in a car, apparently.
Again, she asks, like, is it a trailer? Is it a house? She asks a lot of questions.
Like, very strange questions.
But I guess, hey, that's how they do it down there.
So the police arrive on the scene. They find 52-year-old wife Maggie and 22-year-old son Paul, both dead. They both been shot. It's brutal. The son was shot at like a very close range with a fucking shotgun. The wife was shot with like a handgun, but like she fell in a way that looked like she was running from something. It's a very bizarre scene.
This was in June 2020, and this sort of put the whole family and story on the map, like outside of South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
So then we learn about SLED, and that's the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division.
What did the police find? What did they recover there?
They found shell casings from a particular type of weapon. It's an AR-type rifle. There is a gun of that type that belongs to the Murdaugh family that has not been recovered or turned over. And investigators, I'm told, would really like to find that gun.
They've never found this rifle, and they would greatly appreciate it if somebody knows where it is, if they would just bring it forward.
Yeah, I bet, Valerie. I'm sure that's number one, tied for first with let's find who did this.
And also, like, even if it's not the murder weapon, could we not just have guns loose in the world? Could all the guns please be accounted for? Could we just know where the guns are? That's all I'm asking. The South.
I feel like every single thing we ask is such a big ask to everyone else, but to us, it's just like, please.
I know, because I was like, they want to find it because they think it's maybe the murder weapon. I want them to find it because I just like to know where the guns are.
I would just like it away from someone who can do more harm.
Totally.
Call me crazy. Such a dumb woman. So there are a lot of investigators at play here. There's SLED, right, which is like the South Carolina law enforcement people. And then there are all these investigators. But
SLED put a tight lid on things.
They have not released a suspect's sketch. They've not done any press conferences. That's very unusual in such a high-profile case.
They're royalty, this family down there, and they're not saying a word about it, and people think that's weird.
And it's also like, I don't know, I feel like the gunshots are coming from within the house. You know what I mean? And I feel like maybe you don't say that because, like, they're afraid they're all going to get sued or something.
So it's like 4 days after the murders, they're at the funeral, no arrest, no suspect, no information. But you know what there's no shortage of? Twists. The twists just keep
you guys,
on
get
coming.
ready.
Just when you think, and I'm telling you, there's not like 2 twists. There are like 5.
Right. And so, like, this is where we get the backstory on this family.
For more than a century, the Murdaughs have been like royalty here, a multi-generational dynasty that has controlled much of the area's legal system. It all started back in 1910 with Alec's great-grandfather, Randolph Murdaugh I.
He started his law firm that has become a giant here in South Carolina.
It's a family dynasty that controlled much of the area's legal system. I don't think it's supposed to work that way. I don't think one family is just supposed to be fucking in charge.
Starting in like 1910? Like, oh, great. I wonder how they sided. Like, oh my God.
Of course. Oh, God, of course.
Like Randolph Murdaugh I. It's so old-timey. And
I said the first. Give me a fucking break.
And it's like, it's just super powerful lawyers, a lot of influence. They knew the cops. They knew everybody. They were running that town.
Yeah, another thing that's important is that Randolph I was appointed solicitor who's like the main prosecutor for this like 5-county area. And it's apparently a very high power position. And this is where we see the Rolodex. Like, he was succeeded by his son, and his son was succeeded by his son. And they all look like Lindsey Graham, and they all look like they're about to have sex with the pool boy while the pool boy has sex with his wife.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's accurate. Specific, but accurate. This is also when Dateline does this thing, the lower third. Has your family ever been in the same line of work for generations? Tweet Greg Melvin using the hashtag Dateline. I'm like, what are you guys just trying to get more episodes?
I know.
Getting people to incriminate themselves on Twitter?
Oh, God.
So the Murdaughs are running things statewide, but now they have their civil law firm, and they specialize in personal injury law.
It's specialized in personal injury lawsuits, often winning big settlements for their clients.
Jurors in Hampton County are known as Hampton jurors. They awarded significant settlements that are much higher than what you would find one county over.
Those legal victories also produced big profits for the firm.
The they're fucking fancy ambulance chasers.
Right.
Like, this is the lowest of the low. Now, I'm not saying that people who are injured aren't entitled to money, but, like, you know how this works.
But, like, why they're doing it.
Yes.
Like, they're doing it because they just, like, don't have enough and they want more and they want more.
We also learned that this county where this civil law firm is gives, like, 10 times bigger settlements than the county next door for the same exact offense.
Right. They're learning, the youngins, the kids who are kind of coming up are like, wait, the money is in the personal injury firm.
Exactly.
The money isn't in the old-timey,
Yes.
centuries-old crotchety building.
No, and they also tell us that, like, for all the money and power the Murdaugh family had, they didn't isolate themselves from the locals. They said they were very relatable. They went to the store just like you and me.
Oh, you mean the peasants? Yeah, you were so nice to the peasants who are, like, who you actually deem as, like, lower class than you? Fuck
Of
off.
course.
But by 2006, the Murdaugh family's grip on the Low Country's legal system was changing as Randolph III retired as solicitor.
And none of his children wanted to take on that role as an elected official. And there's no money in public service, okay? The money is in that law firm. So the dynasty was already coming to an end, partly because the good old boy way of doing things can't work anymore. It doesn't work.
And the kids now are like, I just want the fancy cars and the drugs. I don't care at all about the power, you know?
What's so funny is that it's just assumed that if they wanted it, they could just have it.
I
and
know.
then it just would stay in the family. That's so ridiculous.
It's an elected position. And I was like, is this appointed? Like, do you get to pick your successor? No. But these, like, spoiled assholes don't even want it. All they want to do is work in the law firm and make the billions.
Right. So now back to the murders, right?
Yeah.
SLED is not divulging anything to the public, which, I mean, partly is fine. We always say this, like, they don't really owe us anything.
Yeah.
But again, it's weird because it's so high profile. But they make one statement and everyone is up in arms.
Including me.
Me too. Because the statement's like, don't worry, everybody. Oh my God, just have some more lemonade, iced tea, whatever. We don't know who did this, but we know for sure there's no danger to the public. So have another mint julep and it's all good. Don't worry about a thing. And don't ask any questions and don't look at anything. It's all good.
They 100% know who did it. They just either don't have enough evidence to actually get the guy or they're too scared to do it.
But they're also saying, like, no, this was a very specific murder. Like, no one else is in danger. Like, these people were killed for a reason.
I'm not buying that. That's when I'm like, it's time to get out of this fucking town. Get out of the lowlands. Get to the fucking highlands, whatever the hell that is. This place is not safe. Get out. You guys, the body count that's about to start stacking up in this town, it's unbelievable.
I mean,
get out.
Because of this one family.
Yeah.
Like, it all connects to the Murdaughs. And so Craig Melvin, our host, is like,
As with many murders, the spouse is often scrutinized, and Alec Murdaugh was no exception. His attorney, Jim Griffin, was quick to respond by talking to local media outlet Fox Carolina earlier this month.
it's almost always the husband. So we're all going to look at Alec Murdaugh for this. And I'm like, Craig, I'm with you. This is not my first rodeo either.
No, and they look into him and they say they don't really have anything to connect him to the murders. But then they say, like, the rumor mill starts. And they're saying, like, Maggie, the wife who was one of the victims, had she just seen a defense attorney? Was there trouble in the marriage? Everyone's denying it.
And then their lawyer goes on TV and starts fighting with Craig Melvin on the Today Show about if there was a rocky marriage or not.
My favorite is when he asks the attorney.
So, Dick, he didn't murder them. Does he perhaps know who did and why?
I don't think he does.
I don't think he does.
Right.
Attorney, did you want to get some clarity on that? Did you want to maybe ask?
On the Today Show.
I know.
What?
Why don't we get a little clarity on whether or not your client knows who did these murders?
You think Craig Melvin is throwing you softballs on the Today Show?
I know.
Do your homework.
It's also like nothing makes you look guiltier than the attorney being like, well, I don't think he knows who did it. Maybe, but I don't think so.
And also screaming at a journalist about how perfect their marriage was. Stay out of it.
I know.
Nothing makes a marriage look a little rocky than saying it was fucking perfect. They never had to fight about anything ever. Everything was fine.
Because nothing makes any sense, they start looking back at this other suspicious death in the family's past, and we're going back to February 24th, 2019.
And it involves Paul, the son who was just murdered.
Yeah, so Paul, who just has full access to the family boat, apparently.
The family boat.
He's going out for the night with himself and his girlfriend and two other couples.
Paul, the younger Murdaugh son, went out on the family boat with some friends.
3 young couples, all under the age of 21. Paul and his girlfriend Morgan, Connor and Miley, and Anthony and Mallory.
The plan was to go to an oyster roast and hang out there for a while.
But 8 hours later, the boat was wrecked.
I love that we get all of their names and pictures. I was like, Anthony looks like a dick. Actually, so does Mallory. And then I was like, actually, they all look like dicks. I would have hated all of these kids.
Well, it's just like, let's go on the boat. Like, the plan was to go to an oyster roast and get hammered.
I had to rewind that 400 times. I was like, I grew up on Cape Cod. I've never heard of an oyster roast.
I don't know what it is, but like grilled oysters are amazing. So like...
Maybe they all sit around and make fun of the oyster?
Oh, I see. Yep.
Do you think
that poor oyster didn't do anything to you, Murdaugh family?
I gotta tell you, the other night I had nothing else to do. I started watching the old Comedy Central roasts.
Wait, not the Dean Martin ones.
No, like the Comedy Central ones, and the one where Ann Coulter was there. Oh my God.
Who was she there for?
I don't know, but one of the comedians said to Ann Coulter, if you're here, who's out scaring birds away from our crops?
She showed up knowing exactly what was going to happen.
Course.
She goes to the Comedy Central. It was because those roasts are like you just roast everybody else and you say two things about the guest of honor. It's really about everyone else.
Nikki Glaser looked at Jewel and said, Jewel's here, who I call Trailer Swift. She also said,
Jewel.
She goes, Jewel, I'm not going to stand up here and badmouth you since God already did. And you go, oh my God. She goes, I love your teeth. They're like the Spice Girls. Each one's a different color and all just doing their own thing. Anyway, I'm not ruling out the fact that they were going to an oyster roast, which was just standing around and making fun of an oyster.
Well, what do you say? Like, hey, slimy Magoo. Hey, what are you, hard to open when you got sand in there? Like, what do you even say to an oyster?
Oh, my God.
But we're doing that thing because we don't want to talk about the horrible thing that happened. So they wanted to go to the oyster roast, make fun of some oysters and get hammered, but instead there was a deadly boat crash.
But what happens is, like, they stay at the oyster roast for like a couple hours. They're back on the boat. They're hammered. Paul Murdaugh is driving. He decides, you know what? We're going to stop off at a bar where he, underage, and his underage friend go into the bar and order shots.
At Beaufort Waterfront, Paul and Connor went to Luther's bar and ordered 2 rounds of shots while the others waited outdoors at swings. 20 minutes later, everyone was back on the boat.
Paul is the one who doesn't want to go home. And everyone is like, I really just want to go home, Paul. And he's like, no, let's go to a bar. Here's another fun fact. This boat doesn't have lights.
I know.
So here's what would happen. One hammered teenager would drive the boat while another hammered teenager would hold a flashlight up. What could go wrong?
And my question is, how does this, like, they've got all the money in the world. How does this boat not have fucking flashlights? I just imagine these dummies, like, making TikToks and then turning their phones around and using the flashlight to, like, guide the fucking way.
That's what was happening.
You know?
Money can buy you everything but common sense, I guess. Like, fix your fucking boat lights.
I know.
It's so, like, again, like, isn't it so simple? I don't get it.
This is what we learn.
Some told investigators that Paul was out of control, but still at the wheel.
He was very, very drunk. He was yelling at everybody. He was so out of control, other kids were trying to drive.
The next thing Miley remembered was looking up from her front seat in utter terror.
What we know is that there's a boat crash, right? And Mallory, who's Anthony's girlfriend, is missing. And the next day, the investigators bring Miley, one of the kids on the boat, in for an interrogation, and we see the whole thing.
Yeah, and she tells us, like, look, everyone wanted to go home. Paul just wanted to, like, and we see the footage, like, he and some other guy are doing shots, and everyone's, like, waiting on the boat, waiting for Paul to keep getting hammered. Like, how drunk do you fucking have to be?
Also, like, the drinking age in South Carolina is 21. Am I wrong, or is it 18 there? That's a real...
It's 21.
No one's carding this fucking kid. I mean, I guess he had his brother's ID from getting the booze earlier.
He's royalty.
Everyone
Truly.
knows him.
I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, whatever. Because it's mommy's credit card, so that's not going to
I'm sorry, I was a bartender for 10 years, and we were always told, if you get somebody too drunk and they go out and hurt somebody, you are liable. Somebody find that fucking bartender and sue that guy.
I know. So according to Miley, all the kids are trying to get Paul away from the steering wheel with the boat that doesn't have any lights.
Yeah.
And he's belligerent and insisting on driving. And they're all like, they can see what's coming and they're trying to get him to stop and he won't do it.
Yeah.
So he's driving full speed ahead toward a goddamn bridge. Everyone is panicking and screaming and he crashes into the wood pilings under the bridge.
3 of the kids were thrown into the water, Paul, Anthony, and Mallory, and 2 of the kids were left on the boat.
Anthony was like all the way over there, like where we had hit, and Paul was on like the closest island to the shore.
Paul and Anthony were able to swim to land, but no one could see or hear Mallory.
No one can find Mallory. So Mallory's missing.
And we have dash cam footage of Anthony, Mallory's boyfriend, and he's a wreck. And he's hysterical, as he should be. And he's screaming at Paul and about him.
Yeah.
He was in love with Mallory. He's saying he wanted to marry her.
Yeah.
And he's fucking enraged. He's like, get that motherfucker away from me. They had to bleep it on Dateline.
I'm also sorry, Anthony. Like, I actually am sorry, Anthony. But, like, also, this is not the first time Paul's behaved like this.
None of this is new behavior.
No, and, like, you know better than to get on a boat with your belligerent friend who's fucking hammered. You're not blameless here, Anthony.
But to them, they've gotten away with everything.
Yes.
It's the Murdaughs.
Yep.
It's this, like, fake safety that everyone feels when you're around money.
This is how you become a cautionary tale. This is it. Today is the day, Anthony.
So some of the kids, like Connor, are at the hospital for their injuries. And that's when Daddy Murdaugh shows up.
Yeah.
Because he sees his son, Paul, right? Of course, checking on his son. But he also goes over to Connor and he's like, Connor, you keep your goddamn mouth shut. You don't say a word. Don't talk to the cops. We'll take care of it. But also, why don't you talk to my close personal friend and your new lawyer named Corey Fleming? So Paul's dad, Murdaugh, the guy that we're talking about, is telling all the kids to be quiet and giving them a lawyer.
Right, because Paul is clearly at fault here. So Connor's current attorney is here saying
that was a serious conflict of interest because Corey Fleming was one of Murdaugh's closest friends and Paul's godfather.
That was apparently not revealed to the cooks.
And this was not revealed to Connor. So Connor doesn't know that, like, he's now being given a lawyer that, of course, is going to, like, get a great deal for the fucking Murdaugh family.
Right. They're all going to sort of be as one, right? And so Connor's current lawyer put an end to that immediately, filed a lawsuit. Good for him. I hope he brings that guy down.
A week later, a fucking solid week later, Mallory's body is found 5 miles from the accident. And we learn Paul never talked to the authorities. And I was like, how was he given the choice not to talk?
He was like escorted home because Daddy Murdaugh came in with the high-powered lawyer.
So 2 months later, he's arrested. He's charged with 2 counts of boating under the influence causing injury and 1 count of boating under the influence causing death. So good. He gets charged.
Right. Also, boating under the influence. How rich? How rich?
I know.
What is it? Yachting under the influence? Come on. Come on.
And then the narrator goes,
and now, 2 years later, he was dead alongside his mother. And many were wondering, did the boat crash have anything to do with the murders?
2 years later, he's dead. Savage.
Right. And the point is, like, does the boat crash have anything to do with this? Several people are furious at him for killing Mallory. So yeah, I'm sure it's connected.
The best part is that, like, Anthony's lawyer and Connor's lawyer are being interviewed together. And Anthony, who was the angriest at Paul, his lawyer goes, I don't know. That's not, I have no idea if they're connected. And Connor's lawyer is like, maybe.
I don't know. And they're like, we didn't rehearse before we sat down for Dateline together. So now there are even more twists, okay?
Yeah.
A few months after Alec's wife and son were murdered, he calls 911 again. So the murders were in June. This is September. He explains, and this 911 dispatcher has no time for his shit. She's bored, as she should be. Because it's like, oh, Murdaugh, now what?
I know.
So he's like,
I got a flat tire, and I stopped, and somebody stopped to help me.
And I just hear Dorothy, hurry up, Rose. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, and then...
when I turned my back, they tried to shoot me. Did they actually shoot you or they tried to shoot you? They shot me, and I'm bleeding a lot. Where part of your body? I'm not sure. Somewhere on my head.
On what part of your body did they shoot you? And he goes, I don't know, somewhere on my head.
I know.
This does not sound like a person who's just been shot in the head at point blank range. Am I crazy?
No, and then the voiceover goes, right away, there's lots of holes in the story.
Craig's like, don't worry, girl. We're covering all the red flags. Stop being enraged for 5 seconds. And I'm like, Craig, I can't. It's my job.
Well, because we learn that the kind of car he was driving, the Mercedes-Benz, you can drive that kind of car with a flat tire. Apparently.
Super fancy pants.
I didn't know there was that kind of technology that you could drive a car in a flat tire.
I didn't. But here's another question. Why is Daddy Moneybags fixing his own tire? I can't imagine that he's doing
because the story is bogus, Julian.
Exactly. Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to make a lie like this, do it better. I'm glad you didn't. But is anyone going to believe that you, with the boating and the beach house and this house, you're actually fixing
changing your own tire? Absolutely
Give me a break.
The hospital report describes the gunshot wound that he has because he does have a gunshot wound, but it's like a graze. They describe it as superficial.
And so 2 days after this, Murdaugh releases a statement.
Murdaugh released a statement saying he was, quote, entering rehab after a long battle that has been exacerbated by these murders. It later came out Alec said he had been addicted to opioids.
The editor of the local paper is like, his 20-year addiction to opioids was news to everyone.
Everybody.
His families, his partners at the law firm, like, it's a total fucking lie. If you guys could understand the timeline here, this all happened on top of each other. His family was murdered. They're reinvestigating that murder from forever. Suddenly, this guy whose family just got killed is on the side of the road saying he got shot. Like, I remember when this was all happening at once, being like, what the fuck is going on in the lowlands?
And then it's like, and then 2 years earlier, there was a deadly boat crash, and that's probably connected too.
Right.
It's like, wait, what? And then we're going to learn about something else even farther back that's probably connected.
Crazy. And so Alec is now saying, he's like, you know what? I'm going into rehab. I'm going to resign from my law firm, take care of my mental health, take care of myself. And the partners at his firm are like,
In a statement, the firm said it was suing Alec to recover money he stole from the firm and its clients. No one has publicly said how much, but the New York Times reported it's in the millions.
What really happened is that he was fired for stealing a ton of money from the firm and its clients. And it's like, it's in the millions.
Yes. And so they say, like, this guy who's always had everything is now, like, in the process of losing everything. What happened on the side of the road with the gunshot, and we'll get more into it in a second, was this big plot that he had to die by suicide or have somebody kill him so that his one remaining son, who, by the way, his name is Buster, because of course
his name is Buster. Buster Murdaugh from South Carolina.
The lowlands girl, don't forget.
Excuse me, sorry.
So that he could get the $10 million or whatever in, like, life insurance.
Right, because they're not as rich as they appear because he's embezzling millions and millions of dollars.
Exactly.
So it's all, like it usually is, all a facade, right?
So 12 days later, Alec is arrested for insurance fraud.
Right. But according to Murdaugh, here's what happened. He asked, he is saying that, like, he's like, yes, I was desperate and this is what I did.
Yes.
Murdaugh told investigators he asked this man, Curtis Eddie Smith, to kill him. Smith was also arrested on charges including conspiracy to commit insurance fraud and assisted suicide.
Curtis is here with his lawyer named Johnny McCoy, or as I call him, Cool Guy Johnny.
I also do feel like this is Cool Guy Johnny's first day of being a lawyer because he's very quiet. He looks very nervous.
Until he doesn't. He loves that I just called him Cool Guy Johnny.
100%.
His name is Johnny McCoy.
Totally.
That's an amazing name.
He's the nerdiest John McCoy you've ever, like, this guy just looks terrified. He's in over his head. Like, it's all bad for John McCoy.
Yeah, he's going up against the Murdaughs, right? So Curtis was also arrested for, insurance fraud and assisted suicide.
Yeah.
And so Craig, our host, is like, so how you been? How are things since the arrest? And Curtis goes, stressful. Yeah, thanks for asking, Craig. How you doing?
Curtis is a fucking wreck. And I gotta tell you, I wish I could say I totally believe Curtis's version of events. I don't necessarily. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Nothing is simple with this because Curtis is like, I'm totally innocent. Also, I don't know if this is worth noting.
He was your lawyer?
Yes.
Murdaugh represented Smith for an accident claim, but they're actually also distant cousins, and Smith started doing odd jobs for Murdaugh.
Murdaugh was my lawyer for a time, and we're also cousins.
This is a callback to how Murdaugh is a fucking ambulance chaser. He was representing this poor down on his luck guy in some sort of like wrongful accident suit.
But then they got into this dynamic where Curtis started doing what he calls odd jobs for the Murdaughs. And so Murdaugh calls, and Curtis assumes it's like another random gig. It's another freelance gig.
I'm sorry, but like when you meet a guy like that, we just did this on the Pates with the Chippendales. This is the kind of guy you can call when you need someone to kill you on the side of the road.
That's exactly what happened. You know what I mean? Because Curtis is like, well, I thought it was another random gig until Murdaugh says to me, so here's what I need you to do. I need you to shoot me in the back of the head. And Curtis tells us, I refused. Murdaugh demands it.
I said, it ain't happening. It ain't happening.
Smith said Murdaugh then pulled out his own gun.
He made his move like this, and I just grabbed his arm.
You took the gun,
shoved it behind him, between me and him. It went up.
They both reached for the gun. But this is when Cool Guy Johnny has his moment. So he's like, hey, Craig, hey, watch this. Are you watching? And then he turns and he's like, Curtis, how sure are you that Murdaugh didn't get shot? Give me a percent. Give me a number. And Curtis is like, I'm 1,000% sure. And Cool Guy Johnny's like, pretty cool, huh? Rest my case.
Because what Curtis is saying is that Murdaugh said, you got to shoot me and kill me. And I said I wasn't going to do it. And so then it looked like he was going to maybe shoot himself. And I was trying to wrestle the gun away from him and the gun went off, but he didn't get shot. And the implication being when Curtis takes off, Murdaugh shot himself later. And that's why the wound was superficial. It's all a mess, GP.
It's all a mess. And it's like something happened and what we're being told happened is not it.
100%. Yeah.
Because now suddenly Murdaugh comes out and is like, also another thing about Curtis, not only did I used to be his lawyer and we're cousins, Curtis was my drug dealer for like 10 years.
Remember that opioid problem I've had for 2 decades? He's the guy.
Curtis was like, how dare you? I was not.
I know.
And then Craig, I mean, the hits just keep on coming.
I know.
Craig Melvin, he's like, is there anything else Murdaugh could be trying to escape? Yes, right after the break. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't handle this. We come back from the break and he's like, for the second time in a month, Murdaugh was arrested. Not for the staged suicide, not for the embezzlement, not for the double murder of his wife and kid, and not for the deadly boat crash. I'm like, then what the hell else is it?
Well, this is where we take a little journey back to February 2nd, 2018. We learn about a woman named Gloria Satterfield, who was like the Murdaugh family housekeeper / babysitter. And on that day,
on the 2nd of February, 2018, Gloria fell down the front steps of the Murdaugh home.
What were you told about what had happened?
Just that she had fell, that she was tripped by the dogs, and that they thought she had a head injury because they saw blood. And that was about it.
They blame it on the dogs. She tripped on the dogs and died.
This is definitely not what fucking happened. Well, she's taken to the hospital where she languishes for 21 days. Her family's here, her brothers and her sisters and her kids are here, and they're like, she was in intensive care, but she was like responsive. They could talk to her. And then one day they all say like, goodbye, we'll see you tomorrow. And she fucking dies.
And the thing about Gloria is that she worked for this family for years.
Yes.
And they say that she loved it. She took pride in working with them and she loved her job. But then we get a little detour because Craig Melvin's like, everyone in this county is intertwined. Bar hopper or churchgoer. Right. Enormous mansion or double wide. They're all connected. Like characters in a John Grisham novel. Yeah. And I'm like, Craig.
Or Shakespeare, girl. Or Shakespeare on the same plane. Don't you think?
Yeah. Bar hopper to churchgoer. And I'm like, can't we do both? What's going on?
Sometimes if you go to a Catholic mass, you get a little wine during church.
Or you just bring it with you no matter where you go.
But this is the thing, like at the funeral for Gloria, Alec Murdaugh says to Gloria's kids, I accept full responsibility. I'm going to make sure you get an insurance payout. He's going to take care of them. Her kids are here. One of them is described as special needs. These kids are struggling. These are not people with means. The mom was definitely supporting and taking care of the kids.
They need the money.
They need the fucking money. This is a big deal.
But Murdaugh does the thing he did with the kids in the deadly boat crash.
Yes.
He introduces this family. Why don't you talk to my good friend and your new lawyer, Corey Fleming?
Right.
So Corey Fleming is in on all of this with the embezzling and the fraud and all of it. He's another player in this.
They think he's their lawyer and he's working on this insurance settlement for them. 3 years pass, they'd see not a dime.
Something's fishy about this thing. And I said, I just don't think these boys are going to get what they deserve, what's, due to them.
Last June, Eric read an article about Paul and Maggie's murder that mentioned a settlement in Gloria's case for $500,000. That was news to him. So the Satterfields hired their own lawyers to find out just where the heck the money went.
The Murdaughs received a $500,000 insurance payout in the Gloria case, and none of that money ever made it to Gloria's fucking family.
Right. So once they see it in print, they're like, okay, bye, Corey Fleming. You suck. Right. So they get 2 more lawyers who are here with us, Eric Bland and Ronnie Richter, and they're like, we're going to get to the bottom of it. So they write Corey Fleming a strongly worded letter.
Well, this is serious.
But they get no response. So then they sue Corey and the Murdaughs and all that and quote a local banker. I don't know.
You know what, though? They sue the banker who made the payout. Like, maybe this guy's in on it. Good. Sue the bartender, too. Sue everybody.
Yes. Right. And that's when Craig, in his best Keith Morrison impression, goes, that did get a response. Yeah, suing someone really does get a response, I would think.
You guys are not ready for the fucking steam that's about to come out of GP's ears, because what these attorneys do...
The real confirmatory information came when we subpoenaed Corey Fleming's bank account, and we saw all the checks. And that's when the confirmation came of the $4.3 million.
Where did all the money go?
We're still tracing where the money actually landed. But it is impossible to burn that kind of money in Hampton, South Carolina.
The settlement amount was $4.3 million, and that family never saw a dime of it.
And now it's gone. They just don't know where it is. Gloria's lawyers are trying to get it for them, and Murdaugh and company are like, I don't know.
Murdaugh and co. Can we talk about how the fucking Murdaugh killed her? Am I wrong?
Yeah, either he killed her or like the sons are. I think he was totally responsible for it. I think the dogs didn't do it. I know that much. I mean, something is here that we're missing that we're not being told.
I'm sorry. Like, for $4.3 million, they killed that poor woman.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know the story, but I mean, all signs are pointing to them. This is case number, 4?
Yeah.
And we have a 5th coming down the pike? Come on.
I will say we do learn that a few weeks after coming into the knowledge of the $4.3 million, Corey, the lawyer, does reach some sort of financial settlement with the Stratfield family. We don't know how much. And then his law license was suspended.
Ripped away from him. Bye. So then, mysterious death number 5. Dateline's words, not mine, but also mine.
You guys.
Now, Murdaugh is in custody for what happened to Gloria Satterfield, like the felony charges, the fraud, the embezzlement, whatever. So now, not whatever, it's horrible, but now we learn July 8th, 2015.
Yeah.
It's 4 a.m. A man calls 911 because he sees a person laying in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
An officer shows up and discovers the body of Stephen Smith. And we're here with Sandy, his mom, and Stephanie, his twin sister.
I just want to say the guy who called the cops was on his way to work at 4 a.m. I felt a little seen.
I know. It's like midnight. It's 5 o'clock right now. It's midnight to you. I get it.
So Stephen, who was 19, lived with his twin sister, Stephanie, who I'm assuming was also 19.
That's a very safe assumption.
But the mom was like listening to like the police radio or whatever and heard that there had been a body found in the middle of the road. So she calls Stephanie. She's like,
so I called Stephanie and made sure they were okay. And she said, did Stephen come to your house last night? And I said, no.
I was a little confused.
If he didn't come home, we knew.
Something was wrong.
Something was wrong.
and that's how they know some shit is bad. Obviously, the body in the middle of the road was Stephen. Stephen is dead. And the cops say that they found his cell phone. They found his car keys. They find his car eventually. It's parked 3 miles away from where they found his body. The doors were locked, but the gas tank door was open and the gas tank plastic spinny thing was hanging off.
Yeah.
Very weird
I don't know
detail.
what it is, so I'm going with plastic spinny thing.
They threw me for a loop when they said gas tank door. I was like, okay, I guess that's what we're calling that.
That's the little that's the little square, right?
Yes.
Sorry.
You push it in and then it opens.
I thought you just open it. See, learn something new every day. You push it right in. Okay, great. I'm sure it changes from making metal to cars, whatever.
Investigators could tell Stephen had injuries to his left arm, hand, and head. He also looked to have a hole in his skull above his right eye. Could that be a gunshot wound?
They don't know if it's a gunshot wound, but there's no bullet found. And so they say that the cause of death was blunt head trauma from being hit by a car. And now we learn about Stephen, which is all very important information.
Stephen, again, was 19. He was a nursing student. He had dreams of becoming a doctor. He was also openly gay. And the authorities are wondering if that might have had something to do with his being killed.
And his family is worried about that too. His family they're the ones who kind of bring this, could this be related?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're all asking, how are the Murdaughs connected to this?
Right.
So what's happening is that this is not very clear because there are so many cases happening with the Murdaugh family right now that they're all at different levels of what's happening. But what's going on, and we don't know anything about it because it's an open investigation. Law enforcement has confirmed that they're taking fresh eyes to Stephen's case based on the double murder investigation of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh. So somehow, we don't know how, but based on what they learned about the double murder at the top of the episode, they are now reopening Stephen's case.
And it's so crazy because that just tells us they know who did it and they just can't tell us anything. It's so weird.
And this family is just shady as fuck.
Yeah.
It's just so, it's September of 2021. So, all eyes are on Murdaugh, right? He's facing all of these criminal charges, wrongful death and embezzlement and fraud. And in September 2021, remember Buster, the young son he wanted to have the insurance policy?
In September, Alec granted power of attorney to his son Buster, seen here in a recent photo that was taken in Las Vegas, according to court filings. The civil attorneys who are suing the Murdaughs say the family is selling or hiding its assets, listing a boat, selling off properties, and a hunting club membership.
Alec is giving him power of attorney at the craps table in Vegas.
That's where you
and
do it.
And the family is either hiding assets or selling assets. They had to sell their coveted hunting club membership and the boat and all this stuff. It's just a mess.
Yeah, and like that's kind of where it ends. Like they just kind of say like, we're Dateline, we'll keep you posted.
Right, because remember how like Mommy Doomsday, there are like 11 episodes?
Yeah.
Like this is the first of many episodes that Dateline is going to do because there are so many cases.
Yeah.
Like Murdaugh is currently facing 75 state charges. 75!
Wow.
Yeah. So, like, this is ongoing. I guess, you'll know before we do because we don't record in real time.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I have some good news, though.
Oh, what?
Murdaugh has been in prison since October 2021. The people of South Carolina are safe for now.
Oh, fam, thanks for listening to the Up on the Murdaugh murders. So here's the update. What was the date of the...
So March 4th,
yeah.
Alec, whatever, this piece of shit was sentenced to life in prison for the murders of his wife and his son, and he's getting 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole.
I mean, just absolutely wild.
It is both very Southern and very unsouthern, as Blanche would say.
Also, fam, we just Googled the dressing down that the judge gave him. Apparently, the judge reserved, comment of any kind or judgment, obviously, as you're supposed to do throughout the trial. But, as he was sentencing him, he called him a monster, said he didn't believe him. Murdaugh stood up and said that he was innocent.
He was like, I would never do that. And he was like, well, maybe it was the monster you became.
Yeah. Hot take, Judge.
All right, great.
Anyway, fam, come see me on my traveling book tour. PatrickFails.com is where you can get all the information.
Right.
What are we doing next, girl?
So we're doing Catching a Serial Killer, Bruce McArthur.
Yeah, fam, this one's about the gays in Canada, and it's a real crazy case.
Speaking of pieces of shit, Bruce McArthur has entered the chat. I hate him.
All right, well, stay tuned for our trailer for that, and then our funny and hilarious outtakes, I guess.
I guess, fingers crossed.
Okay.
You never know.
Great. We love you.
We love you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
There were men going missing from the gay village.
I'm looking at these pictures that look like me. I started believing there is something wrong.
For years, nothing happens. But when Kinsman goes missing, it's impossible to ignore anymore.
The investigation became Project Houston.
Because it was Houston, we have a problem.
We had surveillance on McArthur. We couldn't let him out of our sight.
They run into the bedroom and they find a shocking discovery.
Someone's life is on the line. Do you expect Santa Claus to be killing and dismembering men?
He was interviewed as a witness. He wanted to help. He seemed genuine.
The police had no idea what the hell they were dealing with.
3 human torsos and assorted bones have been found in large planters.
I think I could have been one of them.
Even if they're broiled or grilled, 6 hours of raw oysters is a death wish. That's just insane. It's just a lot. So I have a feeling they weren't going for the oysters.
No,
I think they were going to get hammered. Do you remember when Jewel went undercover to do karaoke and she did Jewel songs and everyone was like, I wish you sounded more like Jewel. And the big reveal was that it was Jewel.
You and me should go to midnight mass with a flask. God.
A little workaround. A little tip from me to you. Just bring it with you.
Do you think it's the law firm of Bland & Richter?
Bland & Richter?
I can hear that commercial.
Yeah. Injury attorney. Oh, that's Celino and Barnes, remember? Celino and Barnes, injury attorney. 800-888-8888.
Give us a call. We're Bland & Richter.
But we're not bland. Not in that kind of way. We're super fun and cool.
And Coulter. Here we go.
Is Pete white? Is he black? Ann Coulter needs to know if she can decide if she hates him.
You know, last year we had Martha Stewart, who sells sheets, and now we have Ann Coulter, who cuts eye holes in them.
I just realized that I am not the only athlete up here tonight. As you all know, earlier this year, Ann Coulter won the Kentucky Derby.
I do want to say, first of all, as a feminist, I can't support everything that's being said up here tonight. But as somebody that hates Ann Coulter, I'm delighted. So.